Today, we are focusing on the 20-year cycle, how it arises, and its history. According to most of the fashion world, the 20-year cycle refers to how a new trend will draw inspiration from the styles 20 years ago and build upon them to become new trends. But what is a trend? According to Current Cravings Boutique, a trend is a particular style of clothing or accessory that is ultra popular for a period of time, but then generally fades out of fashion. A particular trend can refer to a silhouette, a color, a pattern, an item, a neckline, a hemline, a rise in accessory, or etc. Belgian fashion designer Diane von Furstenberg once said, "The lifetime of a trend can be consolidated into 5 stages."
Step 1. The introduction. Typically, we'll see the introduction come through with haute couture designer shows, fashion merchandisers, textile manufacturers, and marketers. Designers pull inspiration from many different artistic avenues, such as museums, art galleries, vintage archives, films, music, social movements, and architecture. And then design pieces to show to a select group of connoisseurs, usually for an egregiously marked up price, in return for an only piece in the world promise. In step 2, the popularity of a trend typically starts to increase when influencers, celebrities, and people in power adopt it and show it off. They attend 2025 shows in summer 2024, and by the time it starts a trend, they are crowned the trailblazers and doing it before it was popular.
Between stages 2 and 3 is where we see the divergence between haute couture and ready-to-wear fashion. To understand a trend, we must also understand haute couture and ready-to-wear. Haute couture is the eternal mother of fashion and is still deeply assimilated with its origins in bourgeois France.
Haute couture is a French term that literally translates to high sewing. Haute means high, couture means sewing or stitching in French. The term is generally applied to a fitted upper garment, and this comes out of the late 17th and into the 18th centuries, where clothing was made in pieces. You'd have separate sleeves, you'd have a separate bodice, separate petticoats, they'd be interchangeable, and the petticoats are basically giant rectangles. They can be changed to suit the wearer's size, but anything that's worn tight on the body has to be custom fitted. So haute couture involves generally highly skilled people who are making a garment for one specific person. Haute couture involves today high quality, expensive fabrics, a lot of time consuming details made by very highly skilled hands. In France, the term is protected by law and officially defined. So the rules and criteria to qualify as a haute couture house comes out of the Nazi occupation of Paris in the 1940s. So they have these specific rules, and the rules are: a design has to be made to order for private clients, and they have to come for fittings. You have to have a workshop that's in Paris, has to be in Paris, that employs at least 15 staff members full-time. You have to have at least 20 full-time technical people in at least one workshop in Paris, and present a collection of at least 50 original designs to the public every fashion season. So it's once in July and then once in January, and both day and evening garments. So these are the strict rules that they started to employ to cut down on design piracy, which was a problem. So this we talked a little bit about the origins of haute couture coming out of the late 17th and 18th centuries, but a little bit more detail on that. At the time, Paris was the center of Europe's luxury silk production. So the development of the big-name couturiers out of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, notably Charles Frederick Worth, kind of establishes haute couture as we know it. So it starts in the 17th and 18th centuries, but as we know it today, the way the term's used today, was kind of developed by Worth and his contemporaries, where they start to sew their own labels with their names into the clothing. So Worth was British. I'm sure you can figure that one out by the name. He's from England. He worked in Paris, and he's often called the father of haute couture. He was one of the first well-known male designers making women's clothing. So couture is a very intimate experience. The designer works very closely with a client in her undergarments. So typically this was done by women, and now we have a man doing it. So of course, once a man starts doing something in a traditionally female-dominated profession, suddenly it's elevated to high art. It's no longer considered an artisan skill. It's now elevated to an art form.
According to the Fashion United, haute couture is a French word that means high art of sewing or tailoring. Haute couture is considered the pinnacle of fashion. It is the most exclusive clothing in existence. Couture is handmade with specialized tailors, often of luxurious high quality. Special fabrics with beautiful details, such as embroidery and appliques. One haute couture dress may contain as much as 2,000 hours of work. There is often only one of each design, and the piece is also custom made, especially for the client, so it fits perfectly and is tailored to their body and desires. Haute couture originated in 1858. In contrast, ready-to-wear couture's more popular daughter originated in 1966 and was popularized by Yves Saint Laurent. Ready-to-wear refers to clothing produced on a large scale in factory, in standard sizes, such as 34 to 44 or XS to XL, to be sold in finishing conditions. It is clothing produced in larger quantities in a factory, which still incidentally also requires human hands, and is accessible to the general public because of its much lower price.
And ready to wear. It's more or less what it sounds like. Garments are mass-produced off of an average set of dimensions that are either scaled up or scaled down to suit different sizes. It's just as labor-intensive as haute couture. A lot of people think of, you're sitting there putting individual little bits of beads and embroidery on it, but if you ever walk into a big box store and you see things like granny square crochet, there's no good way to do that on a machine. It's done by somebody's hands, usually in a developing country for not very much money. So fast fashion and ready-to-wear is just as labor-intensive as haute couture. It's just a matter of class. Haute couture is produced in Europe. A lot of ready-to-wear is produced all over the world, and I think it's an interesting reflection of other things going on in society. Ready-to-wear is also made by the well-known fashion houses, things like Calvin Klein or Michael Kors. They do a lot of ready-to-wear. You walk into a department store, but if you look at the tags inside them, you can see where they're made. You're going to see a lot of Asian countries, China, Southeast Asian countries, Nicaragua, Honduras, all these places that are developing markets. There's a reason for that. Labor in Western Europe and in North America is often at a much higher price, and it cuts into the bottom line of these big businesses. So that is ready to wear.
Stage 3 is when a trend is at its absolute peak in popularity. At this point, it is being mass-produced at a variety of price points, and many people are wearing the trend. Fast fashion stores and companies are carrying the trend at this stage. Stage 4 is the decline, when the trend has become too popular and mainstream, so people start to shift away from the trend to try and feel more unique. At stage 5, the trend is completely out of the trend. It is considered old and unfashionable, and there is a new trend entering the cycle. Following trends and being trendy or having your own style?
From my observations of students and conversations with students, I understand that students really go toward finding their own style, and I think, I don't know if you're interested why I think so. I think because the fashion is very pluralistic right now, and there are a lot of
trending to be individualistic, is what you're saying?
Individualistic, yes, not following like mainstream fashion, and the word mainstream fashion is also, I think, somehow kind of dissolving within these multiple trends that, you know, facilitated by what different things like social media, right? Of course, fashion designers, they influence, but also the stars of TikTok, stars like individuals, right? Influencers. This is all relatively new things that really affect the fashion and thinking about it. And COVID, of course. COVID changed a lot. But I think it's been a journey toward this condition that where people find themselves in terms of what they choose to wear. And I think it's been cultivated and by, you know, developing of technology and social media, and also such huge events like COVID definitely changed a lot for I guess for young generations.
Thank you. Fashion is cyclical by nature. Almost all rejected and obsolete trends will make their way back into the cycle at some point. There are very few new trends that hit the scene nowadays. Rather, our runways are in a constant state of repetition and resurrection, renewing old fashions in modernized ways.
Yes, about cycles, I think my opinion changes. I thought it was just 20, 30 years cycle, sometimes 40. So, for instance, 1940s came in 1980s. You know, this strong silhouette of big shoulders, smaller waist, and like rounded hips came from 1940s, and it's 40 years cycle. But then I, learned that it's not the cycle, it's the interest in retro fashion, in the fashion of the past, and again, in 1990s, we know that it was interest in the past, and like fashion is always looking to the past, especially after a certain era like 1970s and forward, right? The fashion designers are interested in the history, fashion history, and they bring elements and back to fashion, and it becomes more and more pluralistic in 21st century. It's really a melting pot of the past, like clothing from the past. Plus, people are really interested in vintage. And vintage, what is vintage?
Yeah.
Vintage is something that was made, 30, 40 years ago, and they just wear it as is. Okay, or they can stylize it and wear it. So it's really, there is no boundaries right now.
Yeah.
So I cannot even describe what is revived right now. I mean, I can see 80s, I can see 90s, 90s probably, I can see, so it's not about what styles are now, it's about more like ideas, style ideas that help or like lead people to make their choices, what to wear. This is how I see it. And so like minimalistic or over the top, like exuberant colors, less colors. Again, retro clothing, which can be anything, 60s, 50s, 70s, whatever you like. So it's like a lot of freedom to choose.
Yeah.
But definitely the fashion industry, or like high fashion, I guess, looking back in history right now, that's, for me, it's obvious. I don't see right now much of future, kind of futuristic approach, although I feel like it's coming. It's coming through inventions, technology. There is a lot of interest in new materials, this AI, and all this jazz, but it's still in the process of coming. So it's interesting what it will be ahead. But right now, there is a craze for vintage, for thrifting. There is a, looking back kind of situation. That's what I see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
There is a well-known quote attributed to Rose Berton, who is the fashion designer for Marie Antoinette, famous Queen of France. In the decades leading up to the French Revolution, Rose Berton said, "Il n'y a de nouveau que ce qui est oublié," which translates to, "There is nothing new except that which has been forgotten." Another great example is, of course, the wives of Henry VIII. In the 16th century in England, Anne Boleyn popularized a style called the French hood, which was very racy. It showed your hair, like to here, just like an inch of hair, which was a bit of a change from the style that was popular under Catherine of Aragon, which was called the gabled hood and completely covered the hair. So when Catherine of Aragon was falling out of favor and was famously divorced by her husband, Anne Boleyn rises to power. So all the ladies of Henry's court were looking to these queens for their fashion cues, and the French hood becomes popular again. And then, of course, Anne Boleyn loses her head. The French hood falls out of fashion, and his next wife, Jane Seymour, brings back the gabled hood. So we're going to be demure, we're going to be conservative, play it safe. So that is a wonderful example where there's like a 20-year cycle where in Catherine of Aragon's early years, it's all about the gabled hood, then the French, back to the gabled, and then when Catherine Howard comes along, we're back to the French hood. So comes and goes. So same thing happens in the French Revolution. During the years surrounding the French Revolution, during the Enlightenment, there's a lot of reinvention of all things classical. Greek and Roman styles are back. You see it in philosophy, in architecture, and of course fashion. In the 1780s and 90s, Marie Antoinette starts popularizing these loose, lightweight gowns that Marie Antoinette popularized these loose, lightweight, white cotton muslin gowns. They morphed into the empire waist, the flowing and draped styles popular in the early 19th century. They look a little bit like Greek columns, not accidental. Happens again in the 1870s through the 1880s, the bustle era. So in the 1870s, we get these huge hoop skirts. Gowns get some serious volume at the back. They start tying them up because they get too big. And the hoop skirt supports morph into this elliptical shape. And then from there, we get the giant lobster tail bustle of the 1880s. And then the bustle completely goes out of style. It's gone. 1882, gone. Flat. They call it the natural form era. And then it comes back with a vengeance. In 1883, they're bigger, they're badder, they're more extreme. And then we get into the 20th century. There's, I think, a sense of nostalgia that drives the fashion cycle. When I was in middle and high school in the 90s, there was a resurgence of the culture and styles of the late 60s and into the 70s. A lot of tie-dye, a lot of bell-bottoms, a lot of DIY embellishments, and we're seeing it again with the interest in Y2K, which is wild because that was that was my high school years.
And baby doll.
Yeah.
Of course, yes. Fashion doesn't exist in vacuum. It's a reaction to what's going on around. Yes. you asked, is the answer is yes. Fashion is reactive, and it's interesting always to see what caused the changes in fashion, and especially, in any time. It's always there is something, some reason, right? For fashion to change. And again, the easiest example for me is COVID. Okay, what COVID brought to people. During COVID, we all were confined, right? We worked from home. We were dressed in pajamas, at least half button, right? Pajama. Here you can put tie or whatever it is to be in the computer screen, but it's really the dressing down is one of the trends that I noticed right after COVID. I noticed that the workers, kind of blue-collar workers, would go to work in t-shirts and pants that would be, not long ago considered to be kind of like a housewear or something, really dressed down, good. And also I noticed in the supermarkets, in the stores, clothing stores, I noticed a lot of casual sportwear that was pivoted, kind of designed to look like dresses, to look like long shorts, but they would be with plaid fabrics and a lot of polyesters, a lot of fleece, which I despise as a textile. A lot of acrylics and polyesters, very cheap, lot, and this was offered it was really drastically different from what it was before COVID. Yes, that was kind of in the eyes. I didn't have to read about it. I just went to the store and I see this. Wow. So that's one of the examples how fashion reacts to what's going on in life.
Thank you.